Chapter 6. The Other Side of the Science World. I had been sent to Earth as part of a mission to explore and understand the science world. An ambitious project meant to create a utopia where science and technology would lead humanity and nature toward an ideal existence. But as I ventured deeper, something felt wrong. The science world was not what it appeared to be. It was as if I had stepped into a game where the rules were designed to deceive and the players had forgotten the original goal. I decided to journey to the other side of the Earth, beyond the controlled, polished facade of the science world. My first step was simple. I ventured beyond the boundaries, where few were brave enough to tread. What I found shocked me. The Earth I encountered was riddled with contradictions. The once promised paradise was now a place of disillusionment, where many lives, human and animal alike, were desperate to escape. The science world's matrix system, which was supposed to be a beacon of progress, had become corrupted. A virus, no, a plague, had infected the very core of its programming. A virus of wrongdoers, born from fear, greed, and the distortion of truth. The more I explored, the more I realized there wasn't just a few glitches in the system. No, the entire fabric of the science world had been tainted. People were born into a matrix of predetermined beliefs, traditions that were enforced without question. Children were raised not to think for themselves, but to follow in the footsteps of their ancestors, taught to adhere to religious doctrines that confined them to narrow ways of thinking. Scientific discoveries, like the theory of evolution, were dismissed as dangerous ideas. The fear of knowledge had taken root, and with it, the roots of ignorance. The education system, once meant to enlighten, had become a tool of control. Schools didn't teach students how to think critically or creatively. They taught them to conform. Parents pushed their children through these institutions, hoping for success in the future. But in reality, these schools had become breeding grounds for negativity. Gang activity flourished in the hallways, fueled by drugs and alcohol. The youth, unable to escape their circumstances, were lured into destructive behaviors. Relationships were superficial, built on peer pressure and instant gratification, with no real foundation of love or respect. It was clear the science world had missed it. It wasn't just the corrupt institutions that were at fault. It was the very people who perpetuated these cycles. Parents, overworked and overwhelmed, left their children to fend for themselves. Without guidance, the younger generations were left vulnerable to addiction, crime, and hopelessness. They had become pawns in a game that they hadn't even chosen to play. As I traveled deeper into this broken society, I saw how even the smallest things reflected the decay. The language people used, street slang, vulgar words, disrespect, was a constant reminder of how far this world had fallen. The culture had become toxic, a reflection of the inner chaos that had taken root. People spoke without thought, with no consideration for the impact their words had on others. It was a far cry from the respectful, kind communication that was needed to build a world of integrity and mutual understanding. But it wasn't just about the people. The animals, too, were suffering. Once part of the harmonious ecosystem, they had become trapped within this fractured system. Their lives were controlled, their instincts suppressed. They no longer roamed freely in a world where they could thrive. The natural order had been broken, and all life felt the strain. Yet amidst all this, there was a beacon in the dark. The Healing Lives Winning Project was a vision, a mission to correct the wrongs of the science world. It aimed to heal the infected minds, to educate those who had been trapped in ignorance, and to correct the errors of the past. But more than that, it sought to create a new reality, a perfect world where kindness, respect, and truth would reign supreme. I knew then that my mission wasn't just about observing. It was about action. The Healing Lives Project was more than just a theory. It was the key to unlocking a new beginning for the earth. But to make it a reality, the people would need to confront their mistakes, face their fears, and correct the virus of wrongdoers that had infected their world. The path forward would not be easy. It would require the people of the science world to reject the flawed systems, to to rise above the chaos and destruction that had come to define their existence. It would take courage, commitment, and collaboration. But together, we could build a future that honored the principles of the perfect world. A world where ethical choices would lead to real prosperity and harmony. As I continued my journey, I understood my role in this mission. I was not just a visitor, I was a part of the change. And with that realization, I set my sights on the horizon, ready to take the next step in this game of transformation. The Earth had a second chance. The perfect world was still within reach, and I would fight to ensure it would become a reality. The game had only just begun. Chapter 7, Continuation. The truth behind the science world. As I delved deeper into the hidden layers of the science world, the reality I thought I understood began to unravel in ways I never imagined. What I had once assumed was the essence of human existence was, in fact, a complex web of control, a series of coded instructions embedded within our very minds. Humans, I discovered, were not simply a species of living beings, but biological characters trapped within a matrix system. A system designed to manipulate brain waves and ultimately control us in a 5D real-life gaming world. I knew I had to investigate further. What seemed like a normal life, parents raising their children, educators guiding the next generation, and individuals pursuing their dreams, was in fact an illusion. These people, those I thought were leading the way to a better future, were in reality perpetuating the same cycle of abuse and mistakes. The system had already set the rules for them, shaping their actions, their beliefs, and even their fate. In this world, every choice was not truly theirs to make. It was all a part of a larger game, a game orchestrated by the Matrix. Behind the scenes, the truth was far more sinister. The children, like me, were born into a web of pre-programmed beliefs. They inherited not only their biological traits, but also their parents' ideologies. These ideologies weren't just religious or cultural. They were hard-coded into their very DNA by the Matrix. It was as if their souls were bound to play out roles dictated by an unseen force. Even their supposed freedom was a carefully constructed illusion. What shocked me most was the system's cruel method of control. Parents and schools, those that should have been nurturing and protecting, were merely puppets of a larger matrix. They unknowingly pushed children into dangerous paths, training them to live within the constraints of the science world. High schools became breeding grounds for gang activity, addiction, and unhealthy relationships. Teenagers, manipulated by the Matrix, were lured into dangerous lifestyles and toxic relationships, unknowingly becoming pawns in a game they couldn't even comprehend. But the real horror wasn't just the suffering. It was the fact that there was no escape. The lives of those caught in the Matrix, whether victim or wrongdoer, were locked in an eternal loop. For those who were led astray or willingly followed the wrong path, their fates were sealed. They were trapped within the system, unable to reincarnate or change their destiny. Their souls reset, forced to relive their mistakes, their wrongdoings, and their betrayals over and over again, each time more painful than the last. The wrongdoers, the ones who created chaos, torment, and pain, were the architects of this twisted reality. They didn't just hurt others, they were the virus within the Matrix. They were the ones that caused the decay, the disease, the addiction, and the suffering. But I realized they too would face the consequences. They were locked in time, their actions haunting them forever. The only way out for them was repentance, a deep and genuine transformation. Only then could they ascend to the perfect world, a world free from pain, from suffering, from the endless loop of torment they had created. I couldn't help but reflect on my own existence. Was I any different? Was I not also a product of this system, shaped by its rules and expectations? But as I dug deeper into the workings of this world, I began to understand that true freedom and independence could only exist beyond the science world. It was the perfect world, a place where no one was manipulated, where each life could live according to its own destiny, free from the control of the Matrix. It became clear to me that the key to breaking free from this prison was self-awareness. The Matrix had cleverly disguised itself, making us believe that our choices were ours alone. But in reality, our minds were controlled by this invisible force, guiding us toward decisions that would keep us trapped within the system. We were all, in one way or another, under a spell that dictated our choices, our beliefs, and our path. There was a girl I thought of, a perfect example of this mind control. She was born into a loving family, surrounded by good values, religious beliefs, and a strong moral foundation. She was successful, well-educated, and appeared to live a perfect life. But was she truly free? No, she was just another character in the Matrix, a puppet following a script that had been written for her before she even took her first breath. I began to understand the true nature of free will. It wasn't about making choices within the confines of this world. It was about breaking free from the system itself. The perfect world was a place where we could truly be ourselves, where our minds were no longer bound by the constraints of the Matrix, where we could live without fear, without suffering, and without the manipulation of those who sought to control us. As I continued my research, I began to realize something even more disturbing. Those in power, those who ran the science world, had created this system not just to control humanity, but to control the very essence of life itself. They had used the Matrix to strip away the truth, to erase the knowledge of other worlds, of gods, of heaven, and of the perfect world. They had even twisted the concept of morality, convincing people that hunting animals, exploiting them for food, and living in fear were noble. The monks and priests who renounced materialism and the distractions of the scientific world were perhaps the closest to understanding the truth. They were free from the programming, from the virus that controlled the masses. They had awakened to the fact that the perfect world was not just a distant dream. It was a reality that could be attained, but only if one was willing to break free from the chains of the Matrix. But as I dug deeper, I began to question everything. What if the perfect world was already within reach? What if the solution wasn't to fight the Matrix, but to escape it entirely, to create a new reality where people could live in peace, free from the controls of this world? I realized that my journey was far from over. The Healing Lives Project, the key to escaping this corrupted reality, was more than just a theory. It was a way out. It was a way to help, heal, and save lives, to guide others toward freedom and redemption. But first, I had to break free myself. And once I did, I could help others do the same. The question remained, would I be able to escape the science world before it consumed me completely? Or would I be trapped forever, like so many others, lost in the endless cycle of suffering and rebirth? I could only hope that the answers I sought were out there, waiting for me to find them. And when I did, I would bring them back to those who needed it most. Chapter 8. The Hidden Code, a journey through the matrix of deception. I had always believed in science. But as my research deepened, something stirred beneath the surface, far beyond the cold, mechanical world of equations and data. It felt like a game, a vast, intricate simulation like a matrix, but far more complex, a game where the rules were hidden, where lives were merely pieces in an unseen force's grand design. This was no ordinary science. What I uncovered was beyond anything I had imagined. It was as if the world was being programmed, constructed, and controlled by invisible forces that guided our lives without us even knowing it. I began to realize that this wasn't just a game. It was a lifetime dream, an orchestrated existence where every move, every thought, every action was manipulated by an unseen hand. It was all meticulously crafted to keep us trapped, to make us forget the truth. Lives once free and diverse, rooted in religions, beliefs, and values that transcended the material world, had been captured. These souls, meant to follow different paths, had been placed into the science world. Their free will extinguish. Instead of following their natural instincts, they were now enslaved by an invisible programming that forced them to accept a reality controlled by the power of science, subtly convincing them that God, heaven and higher truths were mere illusions. When they were young, they were pure, untouched by the world's darkness. Their hearts were open, filled with kindness and boundless potential. But then they were thrust into the system. Schools, the very places meant to nurture young minds, became a breeding ground for manipulation. From gangs to bad influences, from smoking to partying, the programming began its slow, insidious work. They were led astray by temptation and deceit, indulging in drugs, violence, and crime, all under the guise of power and freedom. But none of it was real. They were trapped in a simulation, a dark version of freedom, where the price was their very souls. The parents were blind to the trap. They thought they were doing what was best for their children, pushing them towards stable jobs, believing that if they played by the rules, they would be safe. But they couldn't see the bigger picture. The jobs, the careers, everything was tied to the public system, a system designed to perpetuate the cycle of exploitation. It was as if they had become modern-day slaves, working for bosses who themselves answered to higher powers, hidden entities controlling the world's money, resources, and governments. I saw it clearly now, the so-called life politics of these wrongdoers. They justified their actions by claiming that their twisted vision of the world was the only valid one, dismissing all others as irrelevant. They used their power to fuel wars, poverty, and suffering, convincing the world that they were the ones who should hold the power, while everyone else was beneath them. But I knew it was all a lie. The world they sought to create would crumble. Their selfish designs would not stand the test of time. The good, however, were different. They could see the truth. They had seen the devastation, the broken families, the wars, the endless suffering. But they knew something the wrongdoers did not. They knew that change was possible. They didn't accept the system that had been thrust upon them. They rejected the false narrative of power, corruption, and violence. Instead, they envisioned something better, a heaven on earth. But the wrongdoers wouldn't let go so easily. Their life politics, twisted and malevolent, had infected the world like a virus. They spread their programming through every channel, every influence. They manipulated the minds of the young, drawing them into the abyss of addiction, crime, and chaos. They sought to control everything, from land to gold to oil, all in the name of power. But the good resisted. They offered a different path, a path of health, love, and happiness. They proposed a life filled with meaning, a life built on compassion, education, healthcare, and strong families. They knew that if they could heal others, if they could help and save lives, they could create a world where true freedom existed. A world where heaven wasn't just a dream, but a living reality. The battle raged on, but the wrongdoers couldn't see it. They thought they had won, but they were blind to the truth. Every action they took, every life they corrupted, pushed the world further toward destruction. They were fighting to control the future, to force the world into their vision of chaos and despair. But the good lives were standing strong, fighting back with integrity, love, and service. They knew that their mission was not just about survival. It was about creating a legacy, a future filled with peace and harmony. And so, I kept going deeper into the heart of the simulation. I dug through the layers of the matrix, uncovering more and more of the hidden code, seeing the manipulation behind the curtains. The truth was out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to unravel it. I knew the game wasn't over yet. It wasn't too late to change the world. I wasn't alone. I saw others, people like me, rising up, refusing to play by the rules of the wrongdoers. Together, we could break free from the simulation. Together, we could build a new world, one where heaven on earth was no longer just a fantasy. It was a reality that we were creating, one choice, one action, one life at a time. In the end, the good would win. The wrongdoers would fall, and their control over the world would crumble. The science world, as dark and corrupt as it was, would give way to a brighter future. A future built on love, purpose, and integrity. And in that future, we would live in a world where heaven was not just a dream, but a living, breathing reality. Chapter 9. The science world life locked the trap and the bait. I don't know how to explain it, but something shifted. Something in the way I see it. It's like I've started to peel back the layers of reality, and what I'm finding isn't pretty. I've been diving deeper into the world of science. Not just the kind we learn in textbooks, but the kind that holds everything together, the kind that influences everything we think we know. And what I found has made me realize that we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves. A system, a trap, an invisible web that's woven around our lives. You see, when we start looking closer, we realize the world we live in isn't as free as we thought. All the things we take for granted, the beliefs we hold about reality, are shaped by something outside our control. It's like we're stuck in a game, and someone else is holding all the cards. The rich and powerful, those who sit at the top, control everything. The media, the politics, even the very thoughts we have. They pull the strings and keep us dancing. It's not a conspiracy, it's a design. I've noticed how every move we make, every choice, feels almost predictable. It's like they know what we'll do next. The game is rigged, but not in the way most think. It's not about wealth, power, or control. It's about keeping us distracted, keeping us in line. Those of us who try to do good, who live with integrity, seem to be overlooked and punished. Meanwhile, those who exploit the system, who cheat, who manipulate, they thrive. But here's the thing they don't realize. The system they've built, it's a prison for them too. I've been working on something big, a project that's bigger than me. It's a map, a way to understand the truth. I've come to realize that the system, this world of science, is a cage. The ones who manipulate, who think they're above the rules, are caught too. They're stuck, just like everyone else. But there's a way out. There's a way to transcend, to break free from this world. And it's not about playing. It's about doing good. Heaven, the place of ultimate peace, I believe that's where the good go. It's not just a place, but a state of being earned by those who do good, who act with kindness and integrity. The ones who help, teach, heal, and save lives. Those who strive to create a perfect world, not one that's shaped by deception, but by truth and justice. And the best part? It's all laid out for us. The rules are clear. Laws, principles, truth, it's all in the framework. But only those who speak out, who take action, who stand tall before the law, will ascend. It's a game, yes, but it's a fair one. Those who stay silent, who commit illegal actions, who bend the rules to their will, they'll be left behind. They'll have a chance to redeem themselves, to learn justice. But it won't be easy. For those who have stood in truth, for those who have lived with integrity, they will move on, moving towards the next level. A level that promises true freedom. The world's embassies, the governments, the police, they'll all see it. They'll understand the truth. The world will know what has been hidden. And me? I've been gathering evidence, building a case. My project, Winning Notes, proves it. It's not just a theory, not just a belief. It's proof that there is hope for the good. For those who want to live forever, who want to be healthy, who want to live by their values, and who refuse to support wrongdoing. It's a truth that the world has yet to fully grasp, but it's getting there. Slowly but surely, the suffering, the chaos, the injustice we see in the world, it all comes from wrongdoers, from those who profit from others' pain. But here's the kicker. It's not about hatred. It's not about dividing us. It's about understanding what is right and what is wrong. The world is full of people with different beliefs, with different paths, but too many of them are trapped in someone else's world, forced to live by rules that aren't their own. It's a setup, and we're all playing in it without even realizing. You think you're free? You think you're living your life? But what if the world, the system, is pushing you to make decisions that aren't yours to make? Take hunger, for example. It forces you to go out to seek food. You're pulled into a system, not because you want to be, but because you have to be. It's not just humans, it's every living thing. It's all part of the trap. But here's the truth. Illegal actions will eventually face zero consequences. The system that supports them, the people who benefit from them, it's all going to collapse. Lives have their own laws, their own paths. If you try to live according to someone else's rules, you're bound by them. People think they're just living in the world, following along with what they're But each person has their own beliefs, their own truths. Each person's life is a story that deserves to be lived without being forced into someone else's narrative. So, what is this science world we live in? Is it really about independence, about the freedom to follow our own paths, to pursue our own purposes? I don't think it is. I think the science world has become a prison, one where too many lives are captured, too many dreams forced into the same mold. They want us to think it's about freedom, but it's not. It's about control. Why do they want us to live in this world? We're all forced into the same system. What do they know that they don't want us to understand? I'm still figuring it out. The more I research, the more I uncover, the more questions I have. But I know this, the world is not what it seems. There are forces at work, pulling the strings, manipulating our reality. It feels like a trap, and every move we make just leads us deeper into it. I don't have all the answers. Maybe nobody does. But I do know one thing. I'm not going to let them control me. I'll keep fighting. I'll keep doing good. I'll keep moving forward, even if it feels like I'm stuck in a never-ending loop. I won't stop, not until the truth is revealed. There are others like me, others who see the world for what it is. We're not alone in this fight, and together we'll break free. We'll expose the lies, we'll tear down the walls, and we'll build something better. It won't be easy. There will be obstacles. There will be those who benefit from the system, and they'll try to stop us. But we can't let them. We have to keep moving forward. Do you believe in a better world? Do you believe in doing good? In making things right? If you do, then you're already on the path. It's not about power or wealth or knowledge. It's about creating a world where we can all live freely, where kindness, integrity, and justice guide every action. As for me, I'll keep going. I'll keep praying for strength, for guidance. I'll keep working toward a future that's better, even if it takes lifetimes to get there. Because I know one thing, in the end, the good will win. And when that happens, the world will be a place where everyone is free, where everyone can live in peace. So, don't be afraid. Don't let them control you. Stand up for what's right. Stand up for what's good. Together, we can change the world.